it came up like, why do females don't like King Crimson or something? And I chimed in and I like it.
And I was like literally driving away in the car and she's yelling at me, fragile, get fragile.
And I did a lot of Yes jackets and putting fragile on the back of a few jean jackets, actually.
Oh, you got a Yes shirt on. Make sure we can see that. Right on. Nice.
Nice.
I got Melissa's Yes jacket that she painted for me.
Oh, wow. You still have that?
Yeah, and I got it signed
Amazing.
by this is Kris Squire.
No.
Wow. It just
Holy.
John Anderson.
Wow.
And I even got, this is Marillion. And this is Eddie Jobson.
Eddie Jobson? Wow.
Eddie
I was just
Jobson
listening
was
to
playing
UK
in
last night.
Montreal.
Wow.
I got Fish signed my pocket. You can't see it. That's worn out. That was in Toronto.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Awesome.
Epic.
Oh, that's Carl Palmer. Oh my God, the Carl Palmer.
Girl bomber.
I got him to sign a drum head. Yeah, like when they weren't as big, they were playing smaller venues and you could actually like.
Wow.
I had a really cool experience with John Anderson was playing a little festival in Hamilton. And I went with my daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. And we were sort of sitting, we happened to end up in this place where John was standing and he was looking right down the middle aisle, and Jasmine and I were just sitting there eating cotton candy, like straight in his line of sight with nobody in front of us. And the whole concert, I just felt like I was in my own backyard and he was just playing for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Cool. Melissa, welcome.
Hey, Melissa.
This is my first Zoom call. It took me
What's going on there?
Do you want to maybe
You're
turn your phone
sideways.
to the side? You're crooked for us.
Oh, well, I didn't know that's how you do it. Here,
There you go.
this?
Yeah.
There it
yeah.
is.
All right.
Oh, good.
Got it. Hi,
Hey.
guys.
Hello.
Hey, good to see you.
Well, we'll just start rolling with this. This is Prog chat number 12 or 13 or something like that. And the theme is, well, tongue-in-cheek, girls don't like prog, or it's a loose discussion. You know, it's a chat, so we're not going to be too constrictive about it. But the bottom line is, I know all three of you from my early childhood, basically. Camp Mazenau, I was 12 and 13 the 2 years I went. And I met, I don't know if you were there, Norah. Were you there? Did I know you from later? You were. So I was amazed when I went to camp. There were other progressive rock fans because I was used to being the only one who was into prog. I had to get my friends into prog when I was in school. So why don't we start?
There you are, 3 women that like it.
Yeah. So why don't we?
We're all in the same cabin, but I think, yeah.
So why don't we all everybody introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, Kris. I'm currently in Dundas, Ontario.
Hey, my name is Norah. I've been a Yes fan since I was 10. I'm in Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta, but I used to live in Ottawa. I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and Norah, nice outfit. Good one. I'm in British Columbia in the shoe swap. I used to be in Whistler.
Well, before you tuned in, we got started kind of, and Norah showed us this jacket, and you painted it?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago I did. I used to paint on jean jackets all the time. And being a fan of Roger Dean, I did a lot of Yes jackets and putting fragile on the back of a few jean jackets, actually, because it was fun and I had time then.
Wow. Are you still doing art?
Yes, yeah, I am. Oh, yes, here she goes.
No, sorry, keep talking. I do have a fragile you painted too. Can't remember where that is.
So why don't one of you can just pick up this thread somewhere? How did you get into prog? How old were you? What's your story about becoming a progressive rock fan?
All right, I'll start. I was young and impressionable and in high school, and my neighbor had a rock band and he was very talented. He could play a lot of the Steve Howe acoustic things. And I was like, well, this is great. What did you make this song up? And he said, no. And he gave me the record to listen to, and I was hooked. And there was quite a few people in my high school that were into it. So it was pretty okay. Like you didn't have to like pretend that you were cool if you liked it. It was cool. So we all enjoyed listening to. I started out with Yes, and then kind of went to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and King Crimson, and then from there it was, you know, rockier things like Rush, and later in my years kind of more things like Fish and kind of jazzier. Anyway, that's me. Anyone else? How did you get started listening to this crazy style of music?
Well, I think I was in school too, and I think it was a couple of our fellow friends from camp, Ian and Dwight Hodge, were big into this, and I was friends with them. And I think I heard of it first then, but I think it wasn't until I went to camp. And these two lovely ladies were in my cabin, and I think Melissa was like, oh, she'd heard of Yes, because I think I was the only one, well, besides the Hodge brothers, who liked Yes. Certainly I had a friend who liked Led Zeppelin. She was the closest sort of friend I had who was into the same kind of music, Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd. But yeah, it was after camp, and Dean played 2 Steve Howe tunes at our talent night or something. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
There was a lot of us that just at this summer camp that we went to were into it. And then I just explored more. I started with Yes as well. And it's funny, I think I bought Fragile was my first album, and for some reason I didn't like it, and I took it back. And then I got Tormato, and I loved Tormato. But then later down the line, it was like, why did I ever return this album? Like, that's the one that has Roundabout on it. I'm sure that's why I bought it. But again, yeah, I started with Yes, and then Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and yeah, down that road, and King Crimson again for sure. And I think Jethro Tull. I think Melissa introduced a lot of it to me, and then I discovered some. Yeah, I was hooked.
Yeah.
It just spoke to me.
Oh yeah, there was
spoke to me.
Zeppelin and Genesis in there too, wasn't there?
Oh, Genesis, big time, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and for me, I was brought up with classical music, and then hit my early teen years and jumped over to like the Ramones or something. and I think I brought a Ramones poster to camp and subjected you guys to that. And then and then I'm sort of listening to these people talk about this music, and I was like, huh. And I probably like borrowed a Sony Walkman during like, you know, quiet time, and was like, let me hear that. And I'm like, I really like this. And because of my classical background, it was just naturally, I'm like, this has got some depth to it. This has got some layers and interesting things going on. That's not boring. And so I remember the last day at camp saying to Norah, okay, well, what album should I buy if I'm going to buy one? And I was like literally driving away in the car, and she's yelling at me, Fragile, get Fragile. And so got home, bought Fragile, and that was it. Yeah.
And you got me into U2 at camp or something. I think U2 had just come out. Anyway, little side note.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. It's funny how we got each other into stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But
Well,
I do feel, yeah, well, go ahead.
I have to say, I have a very clear memory of Kris. You were playing the Goldman variations or something on the piano. You know, da 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 da. You know that one?
I think that's well-tempered clavier. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm imagining, you know, if you got into prog, you must be more attracted to prog that's keyboard oriented, say ELP maybe, or Rick Wakeman and Yes. Is that the case?
I certainly have my moments, my fantasies of having multiple keyboards on either side of me and wearing a big cape. Yes. However,
And wearing a big cake, I know you. And then Steve Hackett, of course, for Voyage of the Acolyte forever.
oh yeah,
That was you.
Yeah,
oh yes, yeah, still is.
that's an amazing album. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We used to listen to that and like at the end, the last part where it builds up from the little bells and it's just like we would just sit there weeping together.
Oh, true enough.
Yeah.
Then I like the overdriven bass in a lot of it and the poetic lyrics.
Melissa,
that's where I get into it.
Did you ever take up a musical instrument, Melissa?
No, I got into DJing. I'm not very good with playing music. I'm half deaf and it doesn't work out, but I appreciate music a lot.
I took piano lessons and drum lessons, but yeah, I'd never gone and went anywhere with it. I wasn't a good musician.
Well,
yeah, same.
Yeah, but Norah, you're a professional sound engineer now, and I remember when you made the transition, and you were I knew you in London, Ontario. You'd taken what was some really boring career, like I don't know, some money accounting career, and then you ended up going back to school to be a sound engineer, right? You went to Fanshawe College.
Yeah, I went to Fanshawe College. I took 2 years of the recording engineering program, and I did a third year of their what they call it, digital applications, which was more sound editing, which I discovered at the time. I did end up getting a couple jobs in Toronto, sound editing, but backgrounds and sound effects, but I found it very unmusical and I didn't like it. You'd be sitting in a little room listening to baby cries or something, and then that's when I ended up getting. Yeah, I did get a job assisting a sound engineer in Toronto, and she ended up getting called to the cruise ships, and then she couldn't finish out her contract because she got a job as a teacher, and she called me because I had worked with her. And that's how I ended up getting into the live sound and back into live sound engineering. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll give this a go. And I packed up my stuff and went to work on a cruise ship for 8 years doing the live sound for all the shows in the main showroom. Yeah. And that was that. You
heard of those close to the, what's it called? Cruise to the Edge?
Oh, yeah.
That all is
Cruise
Prog
to the Edge. Yeah,
cruises.
I'm on their mailing list and I've always wanted to go, but part of me doesn't want to go back on a cruise ship because yeah. Been there, done that. It's an experience for sure. But yeah, to have all those bands in one place for the whole week would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to do that one time. But yeah. Have you tried that?
Well, it's crossed my mind, but it's just so impractical. You know, I've got kids and family and working full time and all this. It's like it's kind of dreaming to be able to do that. You know, maybe if I'm retired, I could do that. But by then they're all going to be kicking the bucket. You know, I mean, which is kind of sad. We're seeing a lot of our favorite musicians passing away in the last half,
for
years.
Sure. Yeah. And John Anderson isn't with the main group for the longest time. He's doing his own thing. That sort of fell apart at somewhere. That's too bad.
Oh,
why do we like it? I can't even explain why I like it. I guess when I heard it, it just spoke to me. And Melissa talked about the lyrics, and I think I love keyboard in music too. Like I like classic rock as well, but like I love a band with keyboard, and yeah, it just seems more interesting and layered, as Kristen was saying. And yeah, it's hard to explain why you like something. You just immediately. I don't have a lot of friends still that I would go to a Yes concert almost by myself because
no, you'd go with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
I went by myself.
I have done that too.
Sometimes you try to get some friends and they're like, they don't get it, or it doesn't resonate with them, and I'm like, I give up. I just listen to it and I'll go, yeah, I went to Montreal to see a bunch of bands before I moved out here to Alberta. I went to see Stephen Wilson, and I saw, well, Carl Palmer with his sort of knew other people working with him. And Neil Morse, I like
Transatlantic and stuff like that.
Transatlantic and Spock's Beard, and Neil Morse was playing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Montreal is a hotbed of prog rock fans for sure. Oh, and Marillion would have their 3-day. They would come, if they come to Canada, they'll go to Montreal and do their 3-day sort of convention thing and would enjoy that for 3 days. 1 or 2 people out of 1 person who would go with me, but yeah, no, it's just speaks to me.
Yeah,
but the closest thing to a concert I've been to is last weekend listening to Lamb Lies Down on Broadway with Kris over the internet.
Yep, that was
nice.
Fun
though, wasn't it?
Yep, again, we were getting a little emotional there on some of those. Yep.
It was good though.
Yep, that was cool.
I have other girlfriends that listen to this style of music as well, so it's kind of interesting that our discussion is about women that listen to it and how they don't, because I kind of think they do. And out of all the people I know more women that like prog rock than men, which is interesting, I think.
Well, I would say, like, if you go to the concerts, like I went to see a bunch of stuff in Montreal by myself. It was all dudes talking with their dudes, and sometimes there's women, but they bring their wives along. So I do think there is a weighting towards male, but I don't know why. Yeah, it just
maybe that's just in the live venues, because
Oh, maybe yeah.
I'm not sure. That's what my daughter said. She said, well, maybe women just don't go to the concerts as much. And that's true, because we went to see Rush, and I swear I was the only woman in there.
Yeah.
Besides my friend that I went to, who's also a woman. So we laughed at that we were the only couple of ladies that were there standing up and loving every guitar solo.
Loving every minute of it.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I didn't know if you'd back me up on the loving every minute of it.
That's a slightly different genre.
Yes.
But still, who cares?
Well, I remember when the internet first came out, I had moved to Toronto after I think I got off ships, well, before I left for ships anyway. But there was some thread on some King Crimson, I don't know, it was before Facebook, something somewhere, but there was it came up like, why do females don't like King Crimson or something? And I chimed in and I like it, and the whole thread, some of the men were thinking like, oh, well, you can't dance to it, that's why the women don't like it. And I'm like, what's that got to do with it? I just thought that was an interesting comment. They were just thought women
that's a valid comment. You can't dance to it.
So maybe it was more cerebral kind of music, and I guess in the mainstream you don't hear it on the radios. You'd have to seek it out or something. I don't know.
True enough.
But yeah.
Well, I would say my experience is like currently I have a lot of friends in my community who are they're really into 80s music that you can dance to.
That's true.
Apparently, although I'll tell you, I can dance to progressive just fine and a lot better. But and it's their husbands usually that are the ones that are, if I ask the right questions, I'll find out that they're interested in the prog. But I do have a theory about it.
Oh.
Yes.
Lay it on us.
Well, we have like our feminine qualities and our masculine qualities, and there's a whole spectrum, and every human has both feminine and masculine qualities regardless of gender. And when I listen to progressive music, I'm feeling feminine qualities, the multi-layered, a community working together rather than the more masculine sort of front man leadership, which would be more masculine, and the more visual, whereas progressives more much about listening and depth and community, the big band all working together. And well, even if you look at them visually, the styles, you got the longer hair and flowy outfits and things like that. So, and also the vocals like John Anderson, Geddy Lee, you know, you got very high. So there's a sort of a feminine thing going on in a very metaphysical level, I'm thinking, that I believe I was attracted to because in the time that I was a teenager, which was in the 80s, there wasn't a whole lot of places where I felt like I could just go into femininity in an empowered and powerful way. So, and I'm wondering even if that was something that might be explaining why a lot of young men would be attracted to it too, because it's a safe place to be expressing these kinds of qualities without labeling them as feminine or masculine, but it's a safe place rather than that sort of more charismatic, extroverty sort of thing that a lot of the 80s music was. There's my theory.
Oh, I like it.
That makes sense. You know, I had never thought of it that way, but yeah, I think there's some truth to that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good point. Very, the way they dress, the flowy, the music. Yeah, interesting. You can just be in a safe space with your buddies.
Now, are any of you guys into some of the, well, they're not that new actually, like the newer prog bands, like the second wave, third wave of prog bands, like for example, Dream Theater, Tool, Stephen Wilson, you mentioned, like Porcupine Tree. Have you guys sort of been keeping up at all with what's happening in progressive music? Because there's a ton of bands. I can't believe it.
I think Melissa, she seems to be more so than, I love Dream Theater. I love their earlier stuff with there was more keyboardy, but I'm not been into Tool but Melissa, I think you had a good playlist you shared with us and it was all that
new prog rock. And yeah, I do like Tool. And sometimes I just try new things, like quite often actually. So I found that playlist on YouTube, and it's got a lot of bands I don't even know the names of, but I like the music, so I just listen to it. Not as obsessive as I was when I was younger, or going out and buying every single album by a certain band. But the newer music is fun to listen to, and I go that way mostly when I'm by myself, because my family doesn't appreciate it as much as I do. So. Yeah, I do like some of the newer music, but I couldn't tell you the names of the bands in a list, I don't think. Just certain songs I've heard. Anyway.
I know I made a playlist I won't want to mention, like on your phone, on an app or whatever, and then they suggest some other stuff. So I find that was helpful. I kind of maybe found some new stuff, but yeah, I'm not as intense as I once was. I sometimes, because I'm around sound so much, I tend not to listen to music as much as I used to, because I'm
that makes sense,
surrounded by it. And to me, relaxing is almost TV or terrible, but
no, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Teaching
well,
music.
Dean, I actually checked out a couple of your reaction videos, which was so cool, because I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I fell behind, and I'm really looking forward to getting caught up. And I love that idea of filming your reaction to the first listen to something, which and wow, like I thought I was the only one who would just be brought to tears over hearing something, and it's like, oh, the humanity, and then you're like, okay, that's really hard to explain to anyone else, but so I definitely got to get caught up with all of these new ones.
Are you referring to, well, there's a Tool video sort of cried at
Yes.
the end of. Yes.
That's the particular.
You know, there are many reasons why I started crying there, and one of them was that I realized because I had kind of turned my back on prog in the 90s, like everyone did in the mainstream. Suddenly prog was not cool. I mean, we talk about prog never being cool. In a sense it wasn't, I guess, but then in the 90s it seemed to all be dried up, and there was just a few bands going like Rush or Yes still putting some stuff out. So I didn't listen to prog for a good 25 years or so, and then I had this YouTube channel. I did guitar lessons, and Janine, my wife, said, "Why don't you do a react?" And I go, "What? That's stupid. I'm not gonna do that." And then I thought, well, wait a second, I could react to prog, and I'm sure there's some new prog bands out there. Maybe there's one or two I could listen to. So I ended up listening to a couple, and then I got to Tool, and I freaking cried. Like by the end of the song, it was so moving. I cried because of the song, but I also cried because I realized I left my love, my first love, prog rock music. You know, I turned my back on it. I should have stuck with it. I don't know why I don't know why I turned on it. So as the dual purpose there for me, the release, you know, just to.
Mhm.
So that's sort of
Yeah.
the story. But I've cried to other songs too.
I definitely feel the same of just, yeah, well, I think things ebb and flow, and that's okay. And then you get back into the wave and you go, wow, oh, my heart.
Yeah. And how about you? How about you all? Were you have you been consistent in your being a fan of prog music, or did you kind of stop listening to it much?
I have been consistent for sure.
Yeah, never stopped.
Never stopped. Yes,
Cool.
has always been, yeah, like I got a tattoo when I was like 30 or something. It wasn't until after I got off ships or something. Yeah, like so I was still, yeah, it's so I indelled it on my skin.
I'm on again, off again. It's always played in the background, and jump to that playlist or go and listen to a certain song that I really like, and then get on the new suggested for yous and try out some new things. But I've gone to many different genres of music for comfort and stimulation over the years. But
Sure.
yeah, I always kind of have a few prog rock things that are they're kind of mine, you know, and I go and listen to them. And
Well, it's the same with me. I've been reacting now almost 700 songs, and most of it's prog, but sometimes I don't want to react to prog. I want to listen to some, I've been into Japanese hard rock, like a lot of these girl bands that are really awesome in Japan, like Love Bites and Bandmate and Guitaric Spin. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're excellent musicians. They're almost borderline prog. I think that's why I like them so much. They're sort of like Rush in the early days or something. So,
Well, if anything, in the later years, I got into Michael Bublé and Josh Groban. I don't know, there's that sort of Josh Groban being sort of operatic, even. He's awesome, I thought. And Michael Bublé, I love, one of the things I love mixing it on the cruise ship was our big band nights. I love the horns, and I love, yeah. So when Michael Bublé came out, it was like, oh yeah, I love this stuff. So getting away from prog, I stopped listening to new prog. I've been consistent in just liking my standard progressive stuff, but yeah, the new stuff that I listened to tended to be, almost called easy listening, sadly, but yeah, like operatic, like big band. I love that.
any of you guys get into Pat Metheny at all?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
I'm
There's
familiar.
this one thing on you can look up is, I know you're talking about reaction videos, but there's this guy that does a "What Makes This Song Great" video.
Oh yeah. Rick Beato. Yeah.
I discovered him, and he was doing Roundabout, and that was really great. So I check out his renditions or appreciations of a lot of the older songs that I like, and it just fires it back up to the top of the playlist. I mean, I do a lot of jazz, and I was nightclub DJ for a while, so I liked layering music and adding in old bits. But then you just go back to your old faithfuls, and you have your own private stash sort of thing. I still do that, especially if I'm at home and I'm doing some tasks that I have an hour and a half to devote to listening to that album side, because they are much longer songs than most people's versions of things.
That's another question want to ask you all is, do you guys still have records? I just started getting records a year and a half ago. I'd sold all of my old albums years ago, and now I'm back into vinyl. Any of you guys listening to vinyl?
Nice.
I have hundreds.
I have vinyl listening capabilities, but do I actually do it? Not very much, but I love it.
Heavy, eh?
It's just beautiful.
That record is around is heavy.
It's nice and round, you know. But my daughter doesn't even know how a record player works, I'm pretty sure, and yet she has vinyl albums, like a couple anyway, overpriced vinyl albums from like The Weeknd or something, and I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's come back around. I think in my move somewhere, when I was in Toronto, I put my stuff in storage and brought it to Ottawa, and I don't know, I had boxes of vinyl and somehow they disappeared. So I didn't get a chance to sell them or even keep the album covers, which I think would make great art on the wall because the size and everything. But I don't have a turntable. I didn't ever bring my turntable with me. So yeah, it was CDs, and sadly, even as a professional sound engineer, I listened to Google Home play some of my music, and CDs are better than that. But yeah, even my phone sometimes. But
well, this has been a pleasure to talk to you guys again. So and share it with people, our passion.
Yeah, there's lots of females that love it for various reasons.
I'm thinking, I haven't seen anything like this on YouTube yet, talking about women and progressive rock. And so I think this is going to get a lot of hits. And we may have to get back together and do this again. What would you think?
I'd love to promote it.
It should be like a book club and listen to something and then talk about it.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Great idea.
Or bring our favorite tracks forward. Who knows? Yeah. New ones. Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. Great.
I'd love to.
Excellent. So, okay, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for your time, and it's really been fun to see you guys again, and we'll do this again soon with a different topic. I don't know what else to say. I guess spiraling out is something I always say at the end of my videos. Spiraling out. See you all later.
Okay, you guys. Okay. Yeah, I look forward to chatting again.
Absolutely, I'd love to. That'd be great. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.
See you all later.
Take care, Kris.
Bye.
Bye.
I met Steve Howe.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I told you that story.
No.
I was driving to Boston, and I stopped in it was in New York State. And I stopped in a restaurant or the side of the highway type of place with a few different restaurants. And I'm going to this restaurant. Actually, it was a Tim Hortons in America, the United States.
Oh. And
then I saw, oh my God, is that Steve Howe? It's Steve Howe. I couldn't believe it. So he went up to the cashier and he was trying to get something changed, and he went back to his table and he had his roadie with him. And I'm thinking, oh, I gotta go say hi, but I'll wait till he's not. I don't want to interrupt,
Yeah.
And then his roadie got up, and then when he was walking by me, I said, "Hey, is that Steve Howe?" And he said, "Yeah." And he just knew what was going to happen. He says, "Yeah, you can talk to him after we're finished lunch." I said, "Right on." So he said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." So after they were done, Steve Howe came over to my table, and I was sitting with. I just happened to be with some Russian folks, this Russian friend of mine and two Russian ladies. Steve Howe is very interested in the Russian ladies, of course.
Yeah.
I just was not myself. Suddenly I was not myself. I was like, oh, here, let's go over here and talk, Steve. And I'm trying to get him away from the table from the ladies, and it was just so stupid. It's just, I just was beside myself, and I said, "Hey, I'm your big fan," and all this. And he said, "Hey, you should come down to the show. We're playing Boston in a couple days or whatever." So he fist bumped me, and he said, "Take care," and all that. So, but I was flying high for a while after that. I couldn't believe I'd met my guitar hero.
Oh my God, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It was pretty cool.